Gen X Radio, Southwark 22 after 10. We had a message from Daz of Leiston, about a month ago now, and he's into his archaeology. And he said, I think there's going to be some news. I said, what? He said, I can't tell you. Oh, come on, Daz, tell us. No, he didn't. But now we know, or at least we think we know, and it revolves around Sizewell C, creating a new wetland habitat on the northernmost part of the Sizewell C site, close to Lower Abbey Farm. It's being created ahead of any construction work starting to address potential effects on marsh harriers and the like during the construction of Sizewell C. Well, as a result of the creation of that new wetland, they called in, just to be sure, the archaeologists to make sure there's nothing down there that we need to know about. And oh my goodness me, there was. Joining us on the programme, Rebecca Calder, Sizewell C Community Environment Manager, together with Rhiannon Gardiner from the Cotswold Archaeology based at Needham Market. Rebecca, Rhiannon, very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us on. And great to hear that somebody's interested in the archaeology.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We've got a vested interest on all that might be down there. Having said many, many times on this programme, there is still more stuff to be found. Rebecca, let me start with you. What actually are you creating there? It's billed as a nature wetland. Tell us more.
So hopefully lots of your listeners around the Leiston area will already have seen the wetland we created at Aldhurst Farm.
Yeah.
So it's basically a very similar version of that. So we've got some dry land habitat for marsh harriers already up at Lower Abbey Farm, but we're digging some ponds now and some ditches so that we can create some more habitat up at the north of our site. You might have seen in the news that we've got some marsh harriers nesting near Sizewell B, so it's for them. And judging from the number we've seen in the fields and flying overhead while we're doing the works, we're really encouraged that that's going to be very successful. We have marsh harriers nesting at Aldhurst Farm already. So
this, for me, I find utterly fascinating, where you've got the cutting edge of modern technology with a nuclear power station sharing its environment with all that nature, and they seem to just get on perfectly well with each other, don't they?
They do, and I think it's because nuclear power stations are often in quite remote sites, and so they're ideal companions, really. Yeah. So, yes, yeah.
Okay, and it won't be just a temporary thing. This is going to be there for good. It's permanent, isn't it, this wetland?
Yes, it is permanent, and it won't just benefit marsh harriers ultimately. There's lots of other wildlife we would expect to move in there. So things like water voles, otters, frogs, toads, grass snakes, other wetland birds. So yes, so it will be permanent enhancement to that area of the coast.
Well, of course, you are surrounded by not only the beauty of the environment of the county of Suffolk on the Gold Coast there, but just next door, the RSPB Reserve at Minsmere, yes. And that is one of the great reserves in the country now, isn't it?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely, yes, yeah. It's an amazing area of the countryside, and we're really, really aware of our environmental commitments and how important that landscape is to wildlife and to people. So I hope this shows our commitment. You know, it's the first thing we're doing on site is moving in to create this habitat, and of course Aldhurst Farm went in several years ago now, so I hope that shows that we really are committed to the environment and to biodiversity net gain, as well as just how the Sizewell B estate has managed that land already, which is why we have marsh harriers there at the moment. So
yeah. Well, they wouldn't come there if they didn't want to be there, let's be honest.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, before any of that building work goes on, always wise to check what might be down there, and hence you called in the archaeologists, and my goodness me, there was some stuff down there. Rhiannon Gardiner, welcome to you. What did you find?
Hiya, good morning. Yes, so back in the start of 2020, we had a programme of trenching across the Marsh Harrier site, and we found that there was an incredible archaeological potential there. So now we've been back there since September last year, and we've been finding all sorts. We've proven that people have been living there for thousands of years, and clearly it's been a popular place for everyone for a very long time.
So you found historical artefacts from all across decades and indeed centuries, including a building that no one knew was there, basically.
Yes. So we've got structural buildings dating back potentially 2,000 years ago. We've got some Iron Age roundhouses.
Wow.
Then up to more recent, if you want to call it recent, we have a medieval building which we are yet to fully excavate, but we found is perfectly aligned with one of the trackways still in use on the Sizewell estate. So we're all still using the same roads, basically. It's wonderful.
That is amazing to know. Well, some would say, yeah, I can see that. In certain parts of the county, they don't look like they've been touched in a number of years, but that is fascinating. And here's the other interesting thing about archaeology. You don't just find like a Roman site or an Iron Age site. You find all sorts of things because as we go through life, we just keep building on top of everything all the time. So it's all there.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about archaeology. Us humans are creatures of habit. And if one person wanted to live there 5,000 years ago, odds are that we want to live there now as well. So exactly where they're developing now is where people have been living, farming, fishing. There's industrial use there for the past, it's looking like 5,000 years.
My goodness me. What do you think ultimately we can learn about this? Because obviously our knowledge of the history of England, the history of Suffolk, is essentially a result of the work that people like you do. And it changes each and every time you have a big find. There's subtle changes. What do you think we're learning from this?
Well, Suffolk is an incredible county for archaeology. There's archaeology all over the place. You can barely put a spade in the ground without finding something in Suffolk. It's amazing. But the area around Leiston is typically understudied because there's not been a huge amount of development in the past. So we're really filling in the gaps in this specific part of Suffolk. It's fascinating. We can tie it in with all the local history from the projects nearby.
The artefacts that you find, where ultimately do they end up? I mean, can local folk come and see them at some point?
Yes. So initially we take everything back to our warehouses. We clean them. Everything gets marked up by people with very, very steady hands and a lot of patience. So we know precisely where they've come from on site. And then they'll be sent off to specialists and written up so they can end up in publications. But throughout this, we'll also be showing artefacts to the local communities. I think Rebecca has a good idea on what we want to do with the outreach of the project.
Well, yes, Rebecca, you can tell us more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and outreach is hugely important to us. And it's also really important to the county council who are overseeing this work for us. So we're starting small, so things like the Twitter feeds and the press release, but we hope to go out and do things like community talks, maybe finds days, possibly even if we can get the logistics to work with transport and things. And there's enough interesting stuff to see, possibly open days as well. So just keep looking out on our social media channels, our newsletters, our website. And we certainly hope to, this is just the start of things. We really do hope to share as much as we can because, this site is great, but there's some other really interesting sites coming up, like Land East of Eastlands in Leiston, the Two Village Bypass. So lots of.
So it's not over. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
2 or 3 years probably of field work from this point. So lots to do.
People may say, Rebecca, look, you've got a nuclear power station to build. Why are you doing all this other stuff with the environment? But that is part of your brief, isn't it? That is what you've always said you would do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sizewell, I mean, one of the brilliant things about working for Sizewell C and for EDF is how committed they are to the environment. And I'm really proud of the package of measures we've got in our DCO and our deed of obligation. But absolutely, there has to be a balance. The benefits of the project absolutely have to outweigh the disadvantages. We know that, that construction is going to be disruptive to the local community, but it's really important to us then to do the utmost we can for the environment and for the community to address
and to minimise and even improve possibly certain aspects of the environment. Okay.
Yes, environment and things like the archaeology, the knowledge of the archaeological resource of the area. And we've also got money going into some of the built heritage, so the second Leiston Abbey site, Upper Abbey Farm, the first Leiston Abbey site out on the marshes. So there's there's lots of really good stuff coming out. That it is a great project to work on.
Well, I can't wait.
And really interesting as well. So.
I'll wait for it all to be revealed when it all gets eventually archaeologized, as I believe might not be the phrase, but I'll go with it. Just while we're with you, Rhiannon, a lot of people would be keen to get into archaeology, don't really know where to start. You basically just need a trowel and a shovel, don't you?
Well, we do run an extensive trainee scheme. So to get into archaeology, you don't have to have an archaeological background. We're a company, and our partners, Oxford Archaeology as well, are a company who take on a lot of trainees, and anyone who's interested can apply for them, and we'll get you out on site and teach you how to do it. It's a very accessible career to get into, really.
Well, absolutely. And for anybody who thinks, oh, well, they've found everything that needs to be found by now, haven't they? You absolutely haven't. There's so much down there.
I mean, this site in particular, we've got 3 separate excavation areas, and it definitely shows that we have not found everything out there at all. It's throwing up some really fantastic archaeology, some of which we expected, and some of which the finds are going above and beyond what we expected, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Has Tony Robinson turned up with his time team gang yet?
Not yet, no.
It's only a matter of time, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've been out since September. Who knows? Who
knows, indeed. Rebecca Calder, Sizewell C Community Environment Manager, and Rhiannon Gardiner of the Cotswold Archaeology people based over in Needham Market, talking about these recent revelations over at Sizewell C, with more to be revealed. Rebecca and Rhiannon, thank you so much for your time. Great speaking to you.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The James Hazel Show. Gen X Radio Suffolk.